Welcome everybody to the 2017 Regional Host Webinar. My name is Mark Comer. I'm the chair of the Flag Football Work Team, and I will be co-hosting this webinar with Abby Van Note from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and she is joining us from the Student and Professional Development Work Team. So today, some of the things that we're going to go over, we'll cover the basics of hosting a regional tournament, things that may come up and what we need to be prepared for. We'll talk a little bit about brand management, assessment, give you contact information so we can answer any questions that you may have, and then all the post-event information that we need. We're going to go over national tournament information as well, staffing, and officials for that. So when it comes to planning your regional tournament, the best thing that you can use is our NIRSA Championship Series website. We have all of our information on that website, especially the operations handbook. It's a wonderful source of information. Again, it's located on the NIRSA site. It's been used for years. We put it together using information from previous hosts and hosts that have done these tournaments for 10, 20 years in a row. So a lot of great information is in that operations handbook. And again, you can locate that on the NIRSA website. If there's anything in there that doesn't make sense, or if you've hosted a tournament and you think some things could be changed, definitely let us know. It is a fluid document, and we change it every year. When it comes to our regional flag football tournaments, we do have quite a few forms that we need filled out, whether it be through the regional hosts or through players. These forms should be available right now: the waivers, all registration forms, registrar's forms, code of conduct, and rosters. If you're having any issues locating those, please definitely reach out. And again, at the end of this webinar, we'll give you a lot of contact information. So when I say reach out, you'll know who to reach out to as we get to the end of this webinar. If you have additional school forms, definitely include those in the packet, but the NIRSA paperwork has to be included and completed. So you might have additional forms. We need everything NIRSA related back, and if you want to include your forms, that's definitely great. We won't say no to any information. NIRSA liability insurance info will come out before your tournament, and again, this is not for injured players, so we want you to remind all the players that you need to make sure they have insurance, because we do not cover injured players through insurance. If you have questions, so we have several tournament liaisons. There's tournament liaisons from the Flag Football Work Team. There's tournament liaisons from the Development Work Team and Assessment Work Team. So we know it's several liaisons, but we're all trying to get important information for the Championship Series. They'll be in touch with you, if they haven't already, several times throughout the course of this semester. I am the chair of the Flag Football Work Team. I'm not the end-all, be-all of flag football. I do serve on the editorial board as well, so you can definitely come to me with questions, and I can kind of run those up the ladder if you have them. But just know I might not be able to give you an answer right away. I might have to get that answer from someone else. NIRSA is also an amazing resource. Valerie McCutcheon, her information's here, and Keely's information's here, so both of them, reach out to them if you need to get in touch with NIRSA headquarters. What are you planning for promoting the tournament? So this is really important. At NIRSA, we do try to promote these tournaments, but a lot of it's done through word of mouth, using your resources, local schools in the area, reaching out to professionals, trying to get those teams up. Definitely make sure you reach out to NIRSA regional officers, state officers, campus contacts to get the word out there that you are hosting a regional tournament. When it comes to site selection, we did turn back 4 schools from hosting regionals this past year, which is a pretty good number. Numbers are definitely a factor in that. If we're getting a tournament that's constantly drawing less than 10 teams, we're going to look to jump into a different area and see if another school can host a successful tournament. Do more than just the minimum. Don't rely on word of mouth only. Reach out to these people, contact them, let them know that you're having a tournament. Do everything you can to get those team numbers up. Some other things you can do: you can contact your Visitors Bureau, your Sports Commission, local officials associations, see if guest speakers want to come in, see if they have anything that they can donate, And it doesn't necessarily have to be food. It can be officials' gear. It can be some sort of table that the players can go to during and after games. Reach out and see if there's any donations from those areas in your local communities. Use campus resources. Do you have a campus newspaper? Do you have someone on campus that can do videography for your tournament, take photos, kind of make this whole tournament look a lot bigger and better, and that way you can use it for promotions next year? Do you have a health and wellness center? Can you use those volunteers so that we could have a trainer at our tournament, so that we could have other people there that can help the players or the officials or the staff? So now I'm going to hand it over to Abby, and she's going to talk a little bit about our applications and that process and where we stand.
Great. So when thinking about the staff portion of planning for your regional tournament, staff applications will be sent to hosts by September 18th. If you do not receive those, please reach back out to Mark or someone else who is your liaison so we can get that information to you. When thinking about staff selection, the Director of Officials position and application has already closed, and you should have been sent that information already. Please have that Director of Officials selected by September 22nd, and outside of the Director of Officials, all other positions will be selected from the applications that you get sent on the 18th. So officials applications will be done through an online application, just like the rest of our staff positions. This will allow us to streamline the application process for student officials who are applying to multiple regionals, things like that, as well as allow our work team to track data of who's applying. The close date will be selected by your hosts, so make sure that you're communicating that information because that will be a host-specific thing, and the link will be coming out in the near future. So when we think about staffing your tournament, a member of the Student and Professional Development Work Team will be in contact with you regarding any staffing questions. So application, choosing staff. We will also be collecting the staff list once you've selected your staff, just so we can better track who's going to what tournaments. We will also review expectations in terms of the NCS and things that are needed throughout the tournament. So please let us know if you have any questions or clarification regarding any staffing decisions and any assessment questions. You can direct those to us and we can get you in contact with the correct person. When thinking about selecting staff, we want you to take care of your region first. So making sure that those institutions in your region and around you are invited or selected. Please try to limit any extreme distance for staff, just so we can take care of the regions and those schools around your host site. In terms of professionalism, this should be pretty standard, but think about to make sure that we are inclusive in our language and not thinking about and are conscious of biases that we might have towards certain schools, certain officials, certain staff. Make sure once you get on site that we're backing officials at all times, all members of our staff, dealing with teams in a professional manner, and thinking about how we talk to our officials in terms of what we usually say to them for women and co-rec games versus men's games. We really want to target that this year with our staff. And there will be a Director of Officials webinar geared for education and awareness for those staff members as well. In thinking about selecting officials for your tournament, we want you to view all schools equally in the initial review. So giving preference for schools that bring one or more teams, preference for schools that bring staff, and not overloading officials from one school. So we don't want 4 officials from one school and only have 1 or 2 or none from another. Try to focus your official selection on the officials that are close to you. We understand that the NIRSA region lines are drawn, but take care of those officials that are in your region, whether or not that's your NIRSA region. In terms of diversity, we want to make sure that we're getting a diverse officiating staff, including the schools that they come from, their experience level, and their gender. Just a note, an official that has already officiated at a regional or is scheduled to officiate should not receive preference over an official that has yet to work a tournament. We really want to give all those officials who apply equal opportunity, and make sure that officials are employed and officiate on their campus during the semester that they are officiating at your regional.
So we're going to jump into using IM leagues. We know a lot of the hosts use IM leagues, not all, but some do. When setting up your tournament on IM leagues, the waiver can be used electronically, but paper ones still need to be completed. So if we have them fill it out online prior to the tournament, still make sure they fill it out once they get there or bring a hard copy in. Email and ID number, make sure you're requiring both just so we have those on file. And stats, it's your decision when to track and post them and how you're going to track and post them. We will be sending something out to all the directors of the all tournament teams with a hope that we can get universal statistics that we can share across the country so players from every tournament can compare themselves to those at other tournaments. Participant and officials' names, gender, and email addresses must be sent to the assessment team on the Monday following your tournament as well. So we're going to get into some of the information that you need to send in later, but just make sure you have all that stuff prepped and ready to go so once your tournament is over, we can start sharing that information. How to handle roster changes and updates. So you can do pretty much what you feel is best for your specific tournament. However, all changes must be approved by a representative from that school's registrar. So a lot of times we check with another intramural or competitive sports or sport club professional and ask if they know that student that is trying to compete. We don't want that. We want to make sure the registrar has signed off, because oftentimes we don't know how many credits they're necessarily taking. Just because they participate in intramurals or sport clubs doesn't necessarily mean they meet the NIRSA criteria. ID issues, it is recommended that you only accept school ID cards. However, you can choose to allow any sort of photo ID. Do not allow players to play without a photo ID. So a credit card doesn't work, a library card doesn't work. It has to have their photo on it, and ideally we want it to be their school ID card. When it comes to eligibility questions or clarifications, all appeals must be sent to the standards work team. Tournaments cannot make that judgment for themselves. Email Valerie McCutcheon for any and all eligibility appeals, and she starts that process. When it comes to appealing an eligibility rule, again, you'll want to contact Valerie. So if you're not satisfied or the individual and team are not satisfied with the standards work team, you can go through Valerie, and then it'll be sent to the appeals board for another ruling. This whole process might take several days to 1 or 2 weeks. So if there is an issue or if a team is reaching out to you, make sure you're getting that information in as soon as possible, because if they appeal an eligibility on the Wednesday before the tournament, there's a good chance that they do not receive a ruling prior to Friday night games. All right, formatting your tournament. Again, it is up to you. However, we do suggest pool play with a minimum of 2 games in pool play. Of course, we'd love to see 3. The more games, the better. It helps our officials, our staff get to see more, and the participants, of course, love it as well. We should have single elimination tournaments. Granted, if your team numbers are a little bit lower, you can look into double elimination as well. It's your choice how many teams make the tournament. Is it everyone gets into the single elimination tournament, or are you taking the top 2 or 3 teams from your pools? Championships, if you can add to the event to make it special, please do so. So whether that be singing of the national anthem, some sort of introduction of officials, announcing players, music during timeouts, halftime entertainment, and again, we talked about taping it or some sort of photos. Anything we can do to kind of give those players a little bit more That's what we're always looking for, because we want those teams to come to nationals, we want those teams to come to other regionals, and we want those teams back in 2018 as well. Again, with pool play, if you're using 4-team format, you can have 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4, 2 winners play, 2 losers play, and you can do it your other way if you want to do round robin as well. It's really up to you. Make sure you have a tiebreaker policy and it's available for any of the teams. So if you're only taking the top 2 teams of a 4-team format and they tie, same record, make sure they know it's head-to-head first, and more important, is point differential more important? Because there's a big difference when it comes to teams calling timeouts late in the game to run up a score if there's no point, and for those who are actually trying to potentially win a tiebreaker. So let's make sure teams are aware of that. Elimination play, again, we want to make sure that we're giving officials enough games. So if you are short on teams, you may still do a single elimination tournament, but maybe you have a loser's bracket to add a handful more games for our officials to work. Be creative. We want to get them on the field and give them the opportunity to feel like they actually had a chance to show themselves and to improve as officials. When it comes to finances, you submitted a budget as part of your application, and you're responsible for tracking your budget. NIRSA does not oversee your budget. However, we still would like to see how it went after the tournament. So we'd like to compare your budget that you sent us beforehand to what your budget actually was. We'd love to see if you were able to find more donations, more people giving you discounts on food or hotel or whatever it may be. If you spent extra money on something for the players or officials, we'd like to know those things. When it comes to student officials, they need to be paid a minimum of $9 a game or a stipend determined by the tournament. So definitely make sure either intramural, sport club, competitive sports, professionals know that going in, and the officials know that ahead of time. So they don't work 10 games, go up to the table, and then they end up getting a stipend when they're thinking they're getting $9 or $10 per game. Just make sure they're aware ahead of time so they're not frustrated after the tournament. You can also use them as down box or scorekeepers when they're not having games, but we do request that you pay them for when they're doing any sort of work. Student campus volunteers, if you're using your school students in a role, that should not be part of your tournament budget. That should be a school cost. It should come out of your departmental budget. Things that you're responsible for paying, again with the officials, minimum $9 per game or a stipend. National team entry fee, if your champion team cannot go to the tournament, national tournament in West Florida, talk to your second place, your runner-up, and go down the line in that way. We don't want to have tournaments that aren't sending teams to nationals, so make sure you're getting a team that's willing to come to Pensacola. Again, it's your call, so if the second place team had really bad attitude, you don't really want to send them, and the third or fourth place team is a little bit better, that's fine. It is your call. But again, we want to have a team, and this is paid to the national championship. So we'll go over a little bit how you can pay that, but we need to have national team entry fee paid for. And again, your official stipend to your #1 overall official, they should be receiving a travel stipend as well. Optional costs, so if you have extra money at your tournament and you're looking for ways to spend it, you can give additional official stipends to nationals. So again, you're going to award all tournament officials. If you have some extra money, officials would certainly appreciate it, especially those that have to fly to the national tournament. Additional team entry fees that you can give to the national tournament. So if your championship game goes to overtime and both teams are just really strong and you would like to give a second entry fee, you can do that. Again, this is where you can choose to break even or choose to do something else with any money that you have, but it is your decision. Payment for nationals. You can pay NIRSA for the amount you would pay out to teams and official stipend, and NIRSA can make those payments for you. You can do it by yourself, and it can be done online. So the national tournament is done through IM leagues, and you can pay that way. Again, if it's paid to NIRSA, you'll get a code to give to the teams that they can enter in order to register those teams. If you have questions about this payment process or you'd like to get it done through NIRSA, contact Val at her email address. So there's a lot of information that is needed after the tournament. We are currently working on Google Drives to give to all the hosts so that you can dump all your information onto a Google Drive, and then the work teams will kind of go through and sort the information out. Should be a little bit easier than sending those to emails to several different people when it comes to officials and assessment and these MOUs and whatnot. So we're working on that Google Drive right now, and I'm hoping to have that information sent to you later this month, if not early October. Again, we have the Monday MOU, 10-day MOU, the upload form, and again, all this stuff will be sent to you prior to your tournaments. When the tournament is over, your MOU outlines what needs to happen and deadlines. So the photos that we need, the champions, the information on the participants, the all tournament officials, and again, online submissions available for this year. So we are definitely working towards making that happen. So you don't have to go through all your photos. If you want to just dump all of them into one and maybe highlight a few of us to make it easy, that'd be great. But if not, we'll go through all the information to make sure that we have everything that we need. So we will, again, have liaisons for the tournaments. At the end of the tournament, again, currently says the liaison, but we're hoping this is all a Google Drive. We'll need the results, so we'll need all the pool play, all the brackets. If you can put that in an Excel format or a PDF, something that's easy for us to read, as opposed to potentially scanning every single one of your pool sheets in and then just dumping them all. If you can get that onto one sheet for us, that'd be great. We need your officials as well, so your all tournament officials in order 1 through 6. And that's so we know, who is getting an automatic bid from your tournament, who is your at-large, if any of them can't make it, and then when it comes to potential at-larges for the national tournament, if people are applying and we see they came in top 6, they will likely get a higher chance of making it to the national tournament over someone who did not get top 6 at a tournament. So again, all that stuff, I'm putting my information up here right now. If we get the Google Drive done, we'll want everything on the Google Drive. So now Abby's going to jump into brand management.
Great. So as we know, the NIRSA brand is something that is strong and has been pushed by the Brand Management Committee for the National Championship Series. We're hoping that you all can help us with your regional tournaments to further our brand awareness and visibility for students and participants. And if we think about the specific brand management resources that you will have you will have a NIRSA Championship Series social media handbook, which will help you with your social media sites. And each tournament will be assigned another liaison, this time from the Brand Management Committee. In terms of social media, we have the @NIRSA Champ social media, which is on Twitter, Instagram, as well as any tournament-specific social media, either through your school or your specific tournament. Some expectations that we have for branding: if you could please use the NIRSA Championship Series and or NIRSA Regional Flag Football in any of your branding. Try not to use NCS or NCCS. Work with your specific tournament name and the NIRSA Championship Series or NIRSA Regional Flag Football. In terms of logos, please only use the NIRSA provided logo on all official documents that are going out, either paper form or electronic on social media. The branding handbook will be coming to you soon from the Brand Management Committee, so that's something that you should look forward to help guide any of your brand management questions. When planning for your tournament and thinking about brand management, it's super helpful to designate a point person for social media, and that information, the contact information, should be shared with Nicole as soon as you have designated that person. That can be a student, professional, anyone that you think would fill that role well. So the brand management liaison from the brand management committee will be your point person. Some liaisons will be able to attend tournaments and will help on site, but you can utilize them as a source of training for your on-site brand management staff if they will not be attending your tournament. In terms of social media, the NIRSA Championship Series is on Twitter and Instagram. If you can use hashtag NIRSA flag for all of your branding and filtering so that we can have a consistent message, that would be great. You can add your own hashtag as well. So the Swamp Bowl is a great example. In addition, use Twitter for updates and information, and Instagram for more of those action shots, videos, things like that. When thinking about assessment, we are asking the Director of Operations to take the lead in making sure assessment happens at each tournament. So some of the whys for doing assessment. We want to make sure that all the tournaments are ensuring operational outcomes are met, as well as learning outcomes for our students and staff that are attending. We want to make sure our participants are getting what they need and what they want out of our tournaments, as well as providing feedback for hosts on areas of success and areas of improvement for future events. The communication on assessment will come from your student and professional development work team liaison. So some of the populations that we are looking to assess in the 2017-2018 year are participants, volunteer staff, and officials. And a separate research study will be done on officials with the help of the director of officials for each tournament. If you have any questions on assessment, you can reach out to your liaison, as well as April Flint, who is the assessment work team chair, or Ariane Judy, who is the student and professional development work team chair.
All right, so now we're going to get into the National Flag Football Tournament. University of West Florida is hosting once again. This is the second year of their 3-year commitment to the NIRSA Championship Series. The dates are already set. They will be January 5th through the 7th of 2018. So qualification for nationals, the cost is $400 a team, regardless of if they participate in a regional or not. There is a $50 late fee. That date still hasn't been set, but it's usually sometime in December. Championship teams from each division will qualify for the national tournament. So again, that's where hosts need to pay those entry fees. The tournament is still an open format, and any team can participate. So we do have that additional. So some regionals have different requirements than other regionals when it comes to NIRSA qualification. So we have a men's, women's co-rec at the national tournament, but we do have the open division as well. How do we handle teams who win multiple tournaments? So the teams, if they do win 2 or more regional tournaments, they have to choose which package they want to accept between their options. So, for example, if they win at Washington State and then they win at UCLA, they have to choose which package they're receiving. So if they're the exact same, it won't really matter, but for whatever reason, if Washington State is also adding a travel stipend to theirs, they'll likely choose Washington State, which means UCLA would then have to select another team to pay their national fee for. And again, if you go to the second place team and they do not accept it, the teams need to communicate on how to split the costs. But we should be able to get one team from every division at every regional, give them a stipend in order to get to, or pay for their fee in order to get to the national tournament. When it comes to officials, all selections for the national tournament will be made by the director of officials at the national tournament. That application opens, I believe, September 15th. So if you know anyone who is interested in being the director or assistant director at the National Flag Football Tournament, please have them apply. We also have an assistant director for all tournament open for this year's tournament. When it comes to priority selection for officials, the #1 priority is regional all-tournament officials. So if an official goes to a regional tournament and is selected all-tournament official, we do our very best to make sure every single one of them get in, and we have not had a problem in recent years getting that done. In terms of how many teams or how many officials get selected at a regional is based on how many teams are at that regional. So if there are 19 or fewer total teams at a regional, 2 officials are guaranteed spots at the national tournament. Tournaments that have 20 to 39 teams are guaranteed 3, and regional tournaments that have 40 or more are guaranteed 4. All tournaments will submit 1 alternate official to go along with their selected officials, and again, we would like it 1 through 6 in order. So say you have 3 guaranteed spots, we'd like those 3, we'd like your alternate, and then we would like numbers 5 and 6 as well, just in case something happens. If one of the qualifying officials is not able to attend the national tournament and notification is given before December 1st, that spot will be given to the alternate official. And again, December 1st, this is for all the tournaments that are completed by that date. We know University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and Southern Miss occur after the December 1st date. Director of officials at regionals should submit all that information to us just so we know who their top officials are at the regionals. Priority 2 is institutional registration. So if we have universities and institutions that have the institutional registration, we will select. They will give us names for officials. Those officials need to work at a regional tournament in order to still qualify for the national tournament. Deadline for schools to submit their official will be December 1st. Priority 3 is returning All-American officials. So last year we had 10 All-American officials. I do not know how many are back in school this year, but that is priority 3. So if we have a handful that would like to come back to nationals, we'll go through the all-tournament selections for regionals, we'll go through institutional registration, and then we'll hit returning All-Americans. The returning All-Americans still need to attend a regional tournament. They need to officiate at a regional tournament, or they need to be on staff at a regional tournament in one way, shape, or form. Priority 4 is military officials. So NIRSA does work with military bases across the world. If we do have military officials, we do our best to guarantee 2 spots for them to come to our tournaments. Non-NIRSA affiliated tournament officials bids, these tend to be the state tournaments, so we have quite a few state tournaments across the country. These tournaments may secure 1 spot from their officiating pool, so they can select 1 all-tournament official from their state tournament, and they will slide into priority 5. So if we still have space after these first 4 priority, we start selecting these non-NIRSA affiliated tournaments. And then priority 6 is at-large official spots. So the official has to have worked a minimum of 1 regional or state tournament, and then they may apply to the national tournament. These applications, again, are due by December 1st. So if they are working UNC Wilmington, working Southern Miss, and think they have a chance of getting all-tournament, I would still say make sure they apply via this route, so in case something happens and they're not selected all-tournament at one of those 2 regionals, they're still in the pot for an at-large officials bid. These at-large officials bids will be selected by the director and assistant director of officials at the national tournament. When it comes to late fill-in, so if we have something happen in the holiday season and we need a late fill-in, we often look at the at-large officials as well and see if there are any that are close that can get to the tournament on short notice. How we will handle officials bids from regionals, again, your number of bids is determined by teams. Always give us your next 2 officials so we have alternates. So it's a bunch of different numbers, but rank your officials 1 to 6. We know how many teams went to your tournament. Rank them 1 to 6. We'll know who is an all-tournament official, who's your next one up, and then your next few to get to that number 6. If an official has a bid already, treat them as a normal official. And if they are ranked the number 1 official, then acknowledge that achievement, but your national bids will go to your following officials. So for example, if an official goes to the University of Texas Dallas tournament and they are one of the best officials, they get a bid to nationals, they're the number 1 overall official, so they get that travel stipend as well, and then they go up the road, long road, to Nebraska-Lincoln, they're the number 1 official overall again, We will not give them a second travel stipend. We want you to acknowledge that they are one of your best officials at that tournament, but we would like your list of officials from 2 to 7 in this case, because we don't need the same official listed twice, and we'll know 2, 3, and 4 and or 5 are your all tournament ones, 6 is your alternate, and then 7 is in case something happens to some of the other ones. Tournament travel stipend, again, will go to the number 1 rated officials, but if an official is rated 1 at several tournaments, the second tournament that that official goes to will select the number 2 rated official to give the travel stipend to. If one of your officials receiving a bid cannot go to nationals, ideally, if you can find this information out at your tournament, you can send us a list that does not include this individual. So if your number 3 rated official can't make it to nationals, you can still send us a 1 through 6 that excludes your number 3 rated official. So we can still potentially take more officials from your tournament. After your tournament is completed, National Director of Officials will select from the pool of alternates, starting with your regional. After December 11th, Director of Officials will select eligible officials who can attend, starting with geographically close tournaments. So again, all the things I just touched on are repeated on this slide. Travel stipend for your number 1 officials is $150. And again, if you are able to give them more, especially if you are one of the further tournaments from Pensacola, that is greatly appreciated by the officials. This can be paid by your regional or paid to NIRSA post-tournament. NIRSA will pay the official at nationals. At the national tournament, every attempt will be made to pay the officials at the completion of the tournament. So if we can get them a check before they leave, so whether that's when they sign in or whether that's when they get their final evals from everybody in that final day, our goal is to make sure everyone's paid in Pensacola. Again, we need all this information by December 1st. If your tournament is prior to December 1st, UNC Wilmington and Southern Miss, we work with you. We would like it by the Wednesday after your tournament so we can get all this information in. When it comes to All-American officials, we'll be selecting 10, and that is done through the Director of Officials, the Assistant Director of Officials, and the Officials Committee at the national tournament. And again, we are looking for both of those positions this year, so if you know individuals who are interested, please make sure they apply. We have committee members from the Flag Football Work Team, from assessment, from student professional development, working on several other webinars as well. Once these are completed, they'll be uploaded to the NIRSA Flag Football page. They'll also be sent out to the Director of Officials and to the host. You will likely be CC'd on these. The goal is to have consistency across the country. We also want to be better prepared so that when we go to nationals, everyone is kind of on the same page and at that same level. And it's also an opportunity to share advice and tips from experienced Director of Officials. So again, this information, we'll have the webinar for Director of Officials, and we'll also have a webinar for the officials. And currently, if a Director of Officials needs any materials, documents, or any other pieces that could help them, Kurt Clear is a great person to contact. His email is on the screen right now. He can get you those documents. He is more than happy to share everything that he has. Kurt was the Associate Director at the National Tournament the last few years, so he is a great resource. Some tournaments will also use a 2-person system when it comes to Director of Officials, either having co-Director of Officials or having a Director of Officials and Assistant Director of Officials. It is up to you as a tournament host to decide what you want to do, but if you have 2 Director of Officials, you could have one that handles the officials' training and scheduling, one that handles the evaluators and their scheduling and how that evaluation process is going to be done. You can have an assistant position for a grad student or a young professional to give them that experience. Again, be creative. Giving more people opportunities to serve in leadership roles helps us as a profession. And again, the webinar for regional officials that I just touched on briefly, these are being worked on as well. It's been done, I think, the last 2 years. It'll be located on the NIRSA Flag Football webpage, and similar goals, consistency across the country, better preparing them for games, and lessen the shock of education and quality of the games if they're coming from maybe a university that only uses 3-person mechanics or doesn't have co-rec flag football or the quality of some of these regional tournaments. And again, our goal is to have that available by October 1st so we can get it to all regionals and they can send it out to all the officials that they do select. Regional director officials should email the web link within 2 weeks of regional dates. So again, if you're one of those tournaments that's towards the end of November or December, we don't want you sending it the first week of October. Officials will either not watch it or completely forget about it. So if you could send it a week or 2 prior to your tournament so their mind isn't focused for working the regional tournament that they're going to. Officials should review the material with their professional on campus if they do have any questions. And again, this is a huge point. These webinars are not replacements for the training sessions at regionals. You should not expect officials to watch this and then come in on Friday night or Saturday morning and immediately go into games. We still expect you to have some sort of training sessions for officials at your tournaments. So now all the contact information, again, anyone that you may need to contact should be on these next few slides. And if there's someone that you need to contact that you're not sure of, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to forward it along or get you the information that you need so that you can reach out to that individual. But again, I'm Mark Comer. I'm at the University of Baltimore. I also included my cell phone, so if you want to text me, please don't blow up my phone. I'm not that important, but I also don't have time to answer texts at 2 o'clock in the morning. Jessica Coleman from University of West Florida is the National Tournament Co-Director. O.C. Wheatfall is the Series Chair. Keegan Ashby is the Chair for Standards. So again, everything should be sent to Val first, but Keegan and his work team will be ruling on all of those forms that are sent in when it comes to eligibility and whatnot. April Flint, she's the Chair of the Assessment Work Team. Nicole Widmer is Chair for Brand Management. Ariane Judy is Chair of Student Professional Development. And then again, the NIRSA contacts, Val and Keely, are both up here. So all the information you could possibly need in this webinar. If you do have any questions, any follow-ups, any issues, something that you did not understand, please feel free to reach out to myself or anyone else that I just listed on those last 3 slides. Our goal is to support you in any way possible to make these regional tournaments a huge success, get as many teams as possible, as many staff and officials there as possible, give you all the material you could possibly need. So again, use what you have, use everything we give you, ask for help if you need it, and we wish you all the best of luck on this regional flag football season.